Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a highlight of round 10 of the 2023 Tata Steel Masters Tournament, played on January 25th. In this video we're going to look at the game between Parham Maghsoodloo, an Iranian Grandmaster, 22 years old, and 5 years ago in 2018 he was the Junior Chess World Champion. On the black side we have Magnus Carlsen, he requires no introduction. This is the position after the 27th move from white, rook d1 to d5. We have an endgame, 2 rooks and a knight versus 2 rooks and a bishop, and 4 pawns each. What strikes is white's far advanced pawn on the d-file. Rook d5 was played with a possible king d3 in mind, which would support the e-pawn going up the board to connect with the d-pawn. And white wants to make sure that the rook is still supporting the passed pawn after king d3. Carlsen answered with rook d7 with a clear plan of king f7 and king e6 to try and win that far advanced pawn on d6. And here the grandmasters in the live broadcast that I followed on Chess24 said, "The structure is weird enough that you can't autopilot yourself out of it. And even though material is reduced, there are enough imbalances on the board to make this a position where all 3 results are possible." Rook f1 was played here by Maghsoodloo, and the point is that now king f7 is not possible because suddenly there is knight e5 check attacking everybody, and the bishop cannot take the knight because it's pinned by the rook on f1. That's why white put the rook there. It was not the best move in the position. The engine says knight d2 should have been played. Carlsen decided to take that pawn on b2, which is unprotected. As Grandmaster Howell said, he sees a pawn, he takes a pawn. And white cannot play e4. He would love to get his e and d pawn connected, but that rook on g4 is very annoying, covering the e4 square. You cannot play king d3, well you can, but then there is rook g6 attacking the d-pawn, and if you then play knight e5 with the fork, there is rook g takes d6, and the tactics work in black's favor. So what to do after bishop takes b2? Maghsoodloo came up with rook d3. That rook went from d1 to d5 and now back to d3. The point is that it covers the a3 square, that the bishop cannot go there. From a3 it would attack that pawn on d6. But Svikler called this a clear indication that Maghsoodloo doesn't know on which squares his pieces belong. And it will get worse. Carlsen played the bishop back to f6, rook back to d5 where it came from, rook b4 and rook f to d1. In the last few moves black has made 4 rook moves, rook h1 to f1 to d1 and the other rook up and down from d3 to d5. Carlsen played king f7. Now that the rook has left the f-file, Carlsen brings his king up. There's no more knight e5 with tactics. Rook 1 to d3, king e6, centralizing the king, and knight d2, with still the plan of e4, e5. Rook a4 from Carlsen. If you now play e4, then black wins another pawn. So Maghsoodloo decided on a3, protected by the d3 rook. But Carlsen took it anyway. That's also a little tactic. You give up on the rook, but then the other rook is unprotected. And we just swapped a pair of rooks this way, and black has won another pawn. Carlsen is now 2 pawns up. After rook takes a7 and king takes d6, he's still 2 pawns up. Knight e4 check, and you cannot go to e6 because of the fork. That would be a pity. And if you go to e5 instead, then there is knight c5, winning the b7 pawn. So Carlsen decided to go with the king to d5, quite instructive. Yes, white can ruin black's pawn structure, but this is still a very good endgame. 2 pawns up in a rook endgame, even though the pawns are very far away from the promotion squares. Let's put the next moves on the board and see how Carlsen plays this endgame. He's not too worried about the h6 pawn. As we'll see, he's banking on the b pawn to do the job for him. There goes that b pawn. Rook takes h6, wins the pawn, and now Black is only one pawn up, but that b pawn is very quick. e5, rook e6 is a nice move. The e pawn is pinned, and after rook takes f6 you should not automatically recapture the rook, because then white is going to win this game of chess. Carlsen of course took on e5 with check, took the pawn. King d1 and very quickly rook c5, very instructive the way Carlsen wins this endgame. He's cutting off white's king to begin. The white king would love to go to b1, then it would be a draw, but the king is cut off. Of course, white can still give checks and be annoying with his own rook, but Carlsen very methodically makes progress, gets the b pawn down the board. And it ends up on b2, and now how do we get it to b1? Rook a8, so the king cannot move to the a file. But the last move of the game, rook d5 check, and Carlsen looked a bit annoyed that Maghsoodloo had played on so far. But it's very instructive for us mere mortals to see how this works. Here Maghsoodloo resigned, because now it's really elementary. If you go to c3 with the king, that looks like it makes sense to get closer to the b pawn, but then there is king c1, and there is nothing you can do against the b pawn promoting. So you cannot do that. So you have to go away from the b pawn, king e3. And then we see the Lucena maneuver, building a bridge. Every chess player should know this. King c2, threatening to promote, so you have to give a check. King b3, let's give another check. King c3, and if we now give another check, then we see how black is going to build a bridge between his king and his rook. King b4 can now be played, and after rook b8 check there is rook b5, and nothing can be done against the pawn promoting. If we go back to rook b8 check and then king c3, white can also wait with rook b7 instead of giving checks. And how do we win now? Well, we have to be careful and don't think we can now build a bridge with rook d4 with the plan of rook b4, because then suddenly it's a draw. Rook takes b2, ouch, and suddenly the game is a draw immediately. What you have to do after rook b7, if white waits this way, is drive the king further. Rook e5 check, king f4 for example, and then rook c5, and then you can build a bridge. If the king goes back, then rook c4, and rook b4 will be the next move, and then the b pawn will promote again. It's all about building a bridge between the king and the rook, and that's what we call in chess the Lucena position. Maghsoodloo played on a long time, but he did not ask Carlsen to show this elementary win. Carlsen is now in joint third place after 10 rounds with 6 points. A full point behind the leader, Nodiberg Abdusattorov. Para Maghsoodloo is on -2 with 4 points out of 10 games. Thursday the 26th of January will be a rest day, and on Friday the 27th of January round 11 will be played, and I will be here after the round with another highlight. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.